Let's look at a specific number, $73 billion. That is the value of the economic package Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi brought to Washington on a recent diplomatic visit. Inside the Oval Office, the meeting began with high flattery. Takaichi told Donald Trump that he was the only person capable of bringing peace to the world. For a moment, it appeared to be a standard, successful diplomatic exchange. The tone changed when a Japanese reporter asked a question about Allied coordination. The reporter wanted to know why Japan had not been informed in advance of a military plan regarding Iran. This was a routine question about communication between partners. However, it created the opening for a response that would dissolve the appearance of a balanced partnership. Trump answered by stressing the need for military surprise. Then he addressed the Japanese delegation directly, asking, "Who knows more about surprise than Japan? Why don't you talk to me about Pearl Harbor?"
Laughter echoed through the room. Takaichi's eyes whitened. She shifted in her seat, but maintained a polite, fixed smile for the cameras. Veteran analyst He Pen argues that this was not simply a mistake or a joke. Instead, he views it as a moment that revealed the underlying power structure of the relationship between the two nations. By focusing on this specific micro-moment of discomfort, we can see the difficulties subordinate allies face when trying to exert influence in a transactional environment. The reality of the situation was Takaichi's inability to respond. In this diplomatic setting, she could not object or walk out. She had to endure the comment and continue the meeting with a smile. He Pen notes that beneath the polite protocols, the relationship still reflects its 1945 origins. It is a structure built on the history of a conqueror and the defeated, a fact that is usually covered by 80 years of diplomatic manners. This approach stands in contrast to the diplomacy of 2016, led by Barack Obama and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. During that visit to the USS Arizona Memorial, the logic of the alliance was built on shared emotional healing. The goal was to emphasize a common vision rather than past conflicts. The current administration has moved away from this emphasis on emotional foundations, treating the alliance as a series of cold, strategic transactions. The shift is visible when comparing this visit to the previous year. Under Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, the two countries published statements celebrating a golden era of relations. At this most recent summit, however, the two leaders concluded their meeting without issuing any joint statement or formal declaration. He Pen argues that this lack of a document is itself a record. It marks a measurable distance between the two governments that a $73 billion investment could not bridge. Despite the massive financial offering and the display of loyalty in the Oval Office, Tokyo left Washington without a formal paper validating the strength of their partnership. The comment about Pearl Harbor was only one part of the visit. The more significant development occurred when the discussion turned toward China. Trump mentioned he would soon visit Beijing. He told Takaichi that when he met Xi Jinping, he'd put in a good word for Japan. This creates a tribute roadmap. A line drawn from Tokyo to Washington represents Japan's multi-billion-dollar offering, but the influence flows toward Beijing. Washington uses Allied support as a chip in negotiations with its primary global competitor. This framing effectively downgrades Japan's role. Rather than being treated as a central strategic partner, its interests are positioned as a secondary item to be mentioned during a much larger meeting between two superpowers. In this current geopolitical framework, significant focus is placed on the potential for a large-scale agreement between Washington and Beijing. For mid-tier powers, even those with long historical ties and substantial financial resources, it is difficult to influence negotiations of this magnitude. The discomfort seen in the Oval Office was a physical realization of this gap. It showed the limit of what a smaller power can achieve when the two largest players on the board are focused on one another. It supports He Pen's primary thesis. When the two most powerful nations negotiate, they focus on big deals, and the concerns of smaller allies become secondary.